Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. 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 Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Yes, 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 yes. Good morning, good morning. Come on into the space. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Yes, good morning. Good morning to each and every one of you. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Come on into the room. Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Morning, good morning. Come on into the space. Come on into the space. Good morning, good morning. Come on into the space, friends. Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Just getting us all up and ready here. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Ashe. Okay, we got the link already. Good morning. Take us over to the live. Good morning. I'm here, y'all. Good morning. All right, let's go. Let's go. Hey friends, good morning. Excuse the loss of voice. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. As you see, we are on location yet again. Yet again. I apologize for being tardy. Good morning, good morning. But we are celebrating the birthday of a dear friend. And the beauty is that 40 people have come from all across to be present with our good friend, and we are a part of that 40. And let me just say, it is phenomenal. I would say that there is, if you really want to, I'm just a Generation X through and through. And what I love about folk of a certain age and of a certain era and genre, and this is not a slight to any other age, era, and or genre, or to say that any age, era, and or genre does not function like this. But there's a way, that Generation X has served as, we have been bridge builders. And so we stand sort of in the middle. And so when this generation gets together, when certain eras of music are played, oh my goodness. This era that we have been sort of stuck in is anything from the 99 and 2000. So you already have to know what that means to know what I'm talking about. So we have just we had a time last night, that's what I want to say, that got me a little disheveled this morning. But good morning. Again, because I am on location, that means that I am streaming from the same room that my spouse is in, Ashe, which I don't usually do. And we're going to let him rest. Amen. And so if you hear some snores, just know that he is getting some good rest. Shout out to Trisha Hersey. And I was in a bookstore yesterday and saw Rest is Resistance, and I got so excited. I get so excited when we see the community's books. Also, by way of, as you all are getting in, by way of, let me make sure that the folks can see me and that I can see you. Hold on. Hey, YouTube family. Let me make sure I'm up over here. Uh-oh, I don't see me. Hold on. Hold on, friends. I am on live. Here we go. Okay, hold on. Hey, YouTube. Okay. Hey, YouTube. Hey, Miranda. Hello. Is it Nisha or Naisha? Good morning, Rachel A. Good morning, Miranda. I said Miranda. Rihanna. Good morning, Kanita. There we go. Good morning to the YouTube fam. Good morning to you over on Facebook. Ashe. I'm sorry. I'm just talking while I got the announcements up. Hold on. Let me say good morning. Let me do right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, you know what? I can only see. Okay, Irie, we're going to have to reconnect me because I can't see my Facebook comments over here. So let me go over here. You can see me and hear me. Thank you, Natasha. All right. So good morning, Natasha, and good morning, Jamie, Mel, Chris. No, I'm not there, Mel, Chris. I'm some under fantastical space. I'll put up a story about it when I leave. That's how I like to travel. You'll know I was there until I've already gone and got back to, secure and safe and all those kind of things. But I'll put up a story soon. Good morning, Lawanda. Good morning. Confidence, good morning, Irie, Candace, Jessica, Antoinette, good morning, hey y'all, Kaya, morning, Rhonda. Okay, the way y'all, I have my, let me see if I can get out of this, just a second. The way that I'm gonna start, I'm a little, shoot, I went over here to edit. 1 second, y'all. Just give me 1 second before we begin. I wanted to edit this. I did edit it. Okay. Why is it still showing? 1 second. I know that I can do this at the end. Good morning, but I want to do it now. Okay. So it should be, hey, Chayla. Hey, Jay. Good morning. Okay, friends. This week's announcement. This week's announcements. If you've not already seen, because I have not had an opportunity to put it up, Dr. Daniel Black, there are two things. His new text is coming out. Let me tell you something for the writers in the room. Dr. Daniel Black sits with the ancestors, and for those of you who do not know, Dr. Daniel Omatosho Black, professor at Clark Atlanta, his beloved Clark Atlanta University, scholar and novelist. There aren't enough adjectives to share two major things. If you go to his Facebook page, or maybe Natasha will put the link on here. If you go to his Facebook page, Dr. Black is featured on the latest project for Malcolm Jamal Warner, actor Malcolm Jamal Warner, who is also a poet, who's just an all-around artist. And so Dr. Black is dropping jewels and dropping knowledge on his text. And so it's beautiful. The next things, I believe January 30th, Dr. Black's new book comes out called Black on Black. Black on Black. Listen, Okay. And so I want to invite you all to get the book, Black on Black, to make sure that thank y'all for letting me know you can see me and I'm on. I appreciate it. For those of you who can get the book, I want to encourage you to do that. I'm going to be reaching out to Dr. Black. You know, he is a village keeper. He is also, you know, a part of our community, definitely an elder in this community, one in which I am absolutely grateful for, as I am grateful for the community that he founded, the nation of Ndugu and Nzinga. So shout out Mel, Chris, and others who are family members from the nation of Ndugu and Nzinga. Also, before we move into our this week's chronicle, there are two requests for mutual aid. I want to say them now. If those, I'm just gonna say your names, and I want to invite you, because I know I see both of you are on, and I want to invite you to put up your giving links, the ways that folks can give to you. Be to just sort of cut out me as the middle person for it to come straight to you. Or for those of you, if it's easier for folks to send to me, that's fine too. We have two needs. One, our sister Confidence Omanai stands in the need. I believe today is the deadline that she was up against, needing to pay for her housing. It is extremely important, a dire emergency. Without it, she faces being evicted. And so I speak that to us. There is a need for mutual assistance. The last I checked, she was not super far away from that need, but still hadn't met it. So I offer that to the community, and invite you to support. Thank you, Natasha, for putting all those links on. Thank you. Mel, Chris, would you tag Baba for me? He doesn't need to get up this early, but I just want him to know. So that's one need. Thank you. The second, good morning, Reverend Melanie. Now, are you Councilwoman? Congratulations to you, Councilwoman Melody Pennell, down there in Virginia. Congratulations, congratulations. The second is a need to assist with tuition from our own village keeper, Glency Redrick, out of Charlotte, who is seeking to pay a balance of $1,400. And friends, you know that if you have gone through any kind of process, you know that paying tuition, if you don't pay your balance, your previous balance, that you can't register. And so for those of you, and even those of you who have not, but for those of you who've been in that system, you know how much anxiety can be produced when you are unable to register to move to your next semester, particularly on something where you believe that you are called to, not believe, I don't like to say where you believe, where you know, right? Where you know that you are called to, right? And so I just offer that and say that what you need is attracted to you, and it's coming to you by way of people, folks, right? That I believe God and the universe uses people to be blessings, and the blessings just don't fall out the air, but by moves on people's hearts, people begin to engage and support community. Ashe. And that brings us to what our reflection is on today. Good morning to our Digi Deacon, Carlene Carey. Let me text you, Carlene, and make sure that you are on the right. I can't do it. Natasha, I was trying to, oh wait, here we go. Y'all, thank you all. I want to just keep it, Carlene. Okay, there we go. Okay, we're straight. We're here. Thank y'all. I want to honor my commitment. I feel like it's it's really dry, and so I'm on the struggle bus. But guess what? I'm here with y'all. I'm on the struggle bus. I'm here with you all, and we're in community together. This today. One more shout out, two more shout outs. I'm sorry, and then we'll move forward. Shout out to all. You're on. Okay. All right. All right. Shout out to, first of all, shout out to my sorority sisters, the women of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Our 110th Founders Day was on January 13th. Shout out to those women who are committed to scholarship and to public service. Shout out to you, to our founders, to those who, decided that they wanted different, and so they created different. Yes, what a word. Shout out to them. Shout out to them. You will hear us, those of us who are members of the Divine Nine, the Black Greek sorority and fraternities, but particularly sororities right now. We laugh, we chide each other, we joke. We, as my colleague, Dr. Ebony only said, but at the heart of it is all sisterhood, right? And just like denominations, just like denominations, when there is a shift and when folk decide that they see something a different way, then folk go create their own. That is the beauty of being able to create, to be able to innovate and do. So shout out to those, all of those, my sorority sisters. I said my soror, shout out to you. Also, shout out on today, and I just happen to be with I'm with about 14, 15 AKAs, about 10 of them are line sisters, and it's 4 of us Deltas, but we holding it down. So but we know today we will be in a sea of pink and green. Shout out to the ladies of Delta Sigma. Look, it's just a habit. Shout out to the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Shout out to you today. Put your pinkies up for your founders. Shout out to the work that you all continue to do alongside us and alongside our other Greek letter organizations as we contribute to the livelihood of Black folk and our people. So have a beautiful Founders Day. Shout out on tomorrow, J16. J16, I believe it is, for the Founders Day, and I'm going to say sorority sisters because we are all in a sorority, and so we are all under the umbrella of sorority sisters. Shout out to the ladies of Zeta. Listen, Delta just keeps Zeta Phi Beta sorority. Shout out to you. Happy Founders Day to all of the village keepers who are members of Zeta Phi Beta sorority. We salute you. And of course, we know just a few months back that the ladies of Sigma Gamma Rho celebrated their founding. And so we shout out everybody. I believe we have covered everyone, all of the founders. Shout out to you of all of our organizations. Zeta Phi Beta being founded, I believe, was in 1920. If I'm wrong, I apologize. Alpha Kappa Alpha in 1908. I shouldn't have started this because I don't know when Sigma Gamma Rho was founded. But my point is being founded in an era and time where it was a really important thing for Black women to gather around beliefs coming out of that club movement. And so shout out to so many of our who are ancestors now who have been a part of that era. I believe at this point, I have said everything for everybody. If I have left you out, please charge it to my heart, to my mind, and not to my heart. All I can say, y'all, is what a time we had last night. But before I got the party started last night, I was thinking that as we gather today on the birthday to this year's, on the birthday of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, which is January 15th, what conversations, what chronicle, what could we reflect on together? And there are 2 pieces of text that have come that I offer for our consideration, just as we kind of engage a little loosely in terms of how our conversation is going. Good morning again. Good morning to all the people on YouTube and to all of our people on Facebook. I'm having to switch screens because it's not coming up all on one screen, but I'm here and we're here. And the first, our reflection this morning is entitled Creative Maladjustment. Creative Maladjustment. So I'm going to offer for this morning's consideration and reflection two texts. One is we're going to move through a portion of a speech that Dr. King gave to a group of psychology students back in, I believe it was 1964. And then we are going to sort of pair that in conversation with Romans 12:2. I just want to converse and see where we land, y'all. Ashe, let's see if we can place this reflection together. Romans 12:1, let me read first. And it reads, I appeal to you, therefore, siblings, on the basis of God's mercies. The King James says, I appeal to you by the mercies of God. Hey, listen. I appeal to you, therefore, siblings, on the basis of God's mercy, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable of God, which is your reasonable service. Here it says, which is your reasonable act of worship, which is your reasonable service. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind, so that you may discern, my goodness, this text, what is the will of God and what is good and acceptable forever. Can I read it again? It did something to me. I appeal to you, therefore, siblings, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern. So that you may discern what is the will of God for your life. Do not be conformed, so that you may be able to discern. What does discern mean? So that you may be able to judge well, so that you might obtain spiritual guidance, so that you might be clear on what is good and acceptable through God. Can I just share with you, as we talk about this creative maladjustment, before we go over there, that I read this and felt a little something because I interpreted this text a while ago, a long time ago, in a very different way, Ashe. This text, if I am honest with you about it, this text was one that I used to really thwarts the way that I showed up in the world, and particularly, I'm not going to stay here long, but let me just say, it restricted. I was restricted by this text. This text was used in the setting that I was in many years ago. And I won't even put it on a denomination, because I don't want to demonize. I'm not choosing violence this morning. But I want to say that in a space, in a time in theological interpretation, where for me, this meant that I needed to restrict sexual expression, that I needed to restrict pleasure, that I needed to restrict it to a certain kind of container, in a certain way. This is what it meant to present my body as a living sacrifice, that this is what it meant to, I can't see folks today, is if listen, that this is what it meant for us to show up in a particular way. This is it can't, it's not just me, right? Somebody out there is with me. Somebody is getting it. Ashe. Somebody hears me. Somebody, and my comments are off now. I can't even find them. But listen, you get what I'm saying. And so there was a way in which I was unable to really. Hold on, y'all. I gotta see us. I gotta see us. Sheesh. I gotta be able to see you, friends. Just give me a sec. Ashe. I'm going on. Ashe, okay. I found us. Okay, I see my people. I found us. It's a time today in between these screens. And so this Romans 12:2 was really, it is something that I would repeat over and over and over again when I was trying not to quote unquote fall. When I was trying not to fall, when I was trying not to be when I was trying not to, I don't even want to use the word because the word is triggering, and the word means, there are some nuances to what the word means. But since that's not what we're talking about this morning, I don't want to spend much more time on that. I just want to say, yes, Dr. Jamie, that it was restricting in a way that you understood what, yes, it restricted the way that we meant to be holy. And so I can't fully see who's on here right now, but if any of my New Testament scholars are on here, I invite you to chime in. And today when I read Romans in the context of the historical context of Jesus, but also in the context of writers like Aubrey Hendricks, the politics of Jesus, in the context of New Testament scholars like Dr. Shavli, T.J. Smith, in the context of many, in the context in an African-centered, womanist, Afrofuturist, if you will, interpretive lens. I understand that really presenting your body as a living sacrifice for me would kind of be similar to the ways that even maybe the writers of Hebrews were requesting the listeners not to shrink back, that these texts are written, right, of course, well after Jesus has already walked the earth, has already been lynched, has been raised, as you will, and the folk are waiting for the return. And so life is not easy. Life is pretty hard. Life is a struggle. There are constant moments when folk in this particular context were having to choose. My God, today, help me, Holy Ghost. We're having to choose between following their customs and the God that had brought their ancestors a mighty long way, and following the empire. Who would receive their allegiance? Would it be, the gods of those who were ruling over them, or would it be the God of their history, the God of their people, the God of their culture? This notion then to present your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, for this is your reasonable service. And when you do this, right, it is the the suggestion that to present your body, I would suggest, is already a form of maladjustment. Hold on, stay right there. We got to go one more other place and just hold on, stay right there on that maladjustment place. Give me a second to just find my space here. My goodness, my goodness. Here's what I want to talk about a little bit. What Dr. King puts forth to us. Dr. King puts forth to us this concept of creative maladjustment. Creative maladjustment, which is an idea that links the struggles of individuals to social forces around them. Creative maladjustment is an idea that links the internal struggles of individuals to the social forces around them. Creative maladjustment. I want to get to us. I had us all queued up. Hold on, friends. Here we are. This excerpt from one of Dr. King's speeches around this idea of being maladjusted. I want to go jump right into a portion of this speech and listen to this part of the text. You know, he says that there are certain technical words in every academic discipline which soon become stereotypes and cliches. Every academic discipline, he says, has its technical nomenclature. Modern psychology has a word that is probably used more than any other word in psychology. It is the word maladjusted. It is the ring and cry of modern child psychology, and certainly we all want to avoid the maladjusted life. My goodness. We all want to live, he says, we all want to live a well-adjusted life in order to avoid the neurotic and schizophrenic personalities. But I must honestly say that there are some things in our nation and the world to which I am proud to be maladjusted, and wish all people of goodwill would be maladjusted until the good society is realized. I'm continuing on. I never intend to adjust myself to segregation and discrimination. I never intend to become adjusted to a religious bigotry. I never intend to adjust myself to economic conditions that will take necessities from the many to give luxuries to the few, leaving millions of people smothering in an airtight cage of poverty in the midst of an affluent society. I never intend to adjust myself to the madness of militarism and the self-defeating effects of physical violence. In his day when this was spoken, in a day when Sputniks and explorers and Geminis are dashing through space and guided missiles are causing highways of death through the stratosphere, no nation can win a war. It is no longer a choice between violence and nonviolence. There is no longer a choice between violence and nonviolence. It is either nonviolence and non-existence, my Lord. The alternative to disarmament, the alternative to a greater suspension of nuclear tests, the alternative to passionate and determined negotiated settlements of conflicts in the world like Vietnam, the alternative to strengthening the United Nations and thereby the world may well be a civilization plunged into the abyss of annihilation, and our earthly habitat will be transformed into an inferno that even the mind of Dante could not imagine. And so we need maladjusted people where these problems are concerned. It may well be that our whole world is in need of the formation of a new organization, the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment. People who will be as maladjusted as the prophet Amos, who in the midst of the injustices of his day cried the words that echoed across the centuries, "Let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream." As maladjusted, I'm going to pause right here and just let me just pause and say that to present our bodies as a living sacrifice, as a reasonable service, to not be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by a new mind to shift the way that we think, is an example of creative maladjustment. It is an example of creative maladjustment as we tie our individual struggles with the world's ills, as we come together to see what the problems are, as we engage in this Nguzo Saba, the seven principles, as we engage those. And let me pause right here and invite you to even move a little bit higher in your maladjustment. I want to be clear about folks. Yes, I am aware of what the founder of Kwanda, what his past discretions, crimes, if you will, against Black women are and have been. And I acknowledge and understand how that is a trigger. Notice I didn't say how that may be, because maybe suggests that there's a question there. How that is a trigger for some, and how we need to hold folk accountable. But here's what I want to say about the Nguzo Saba. The Nguzo Saba predates the founding of Kwanzaa. Yeah, friends, I want to, the principles of Kwanzaa may have been organized in that particular way by Karenga, but Karenga is not the founder of what it means for us to have unity. These are universal principles, but for me particularly come out of specific spaces. Some of these come from the Ma'at, the 42 principles. What does it mean for us to bring back truth and balance and reciprocity? That is what collective work and responsibility is. That is what cooperative economics are. Faith is indigenous to our culture. So I just want to share for those who are woke in the balcony on this morning, who, say that they don't, they're not supporting anything. I just want to say that these principles of living predate. These are ancient African and indigenous principles. They predate any founder of any human institution, Ashe. So now that we know that, we can move on. That for the this notion, this understanding in Romans, for us to present our bodies is an invitation to put our bodies on the line. My God, today it means that as we continue to stand in the face of injustice, as we continue to be the victims, or to be the matter upon which this empire places its foot, as we continue to have our own land, our own sort of space challenged, those who have been introduced to this Jesus figure, those who have been introduced to this new way of living. Really, I would say that it was both a new, that what Jesus does is bring Jesus self is an embodied Sankofa moment. Let me get my water on that. Jesus is the embodiment of a Sankofa. In Jesus's life, in Jesus's witness, Jesus is always here and there. Jesus is constantly the picture of either this as Sankofa, or the bird, the Sankofa bird, where its body is facing forward and its head is turned backward. That is how I see Jesus in the world, that Jesus comes to bring us forward movement and forward thought, but Jesus's head is always on the swivel, turning back. Why? Because Jesus was Jewish. Jesus still was very much a part of the Jewish culture. Jesus was not trying to create a new religion. What Jesus was trying to do was offer reform in the one that he was birthed into. Come on in here, y'all. My God. Yeah. And so in that positioning, right, in sort of God, as we understand this incarnation, God becoming one of us, even in God becoming one of us, God doesn't just become one of us, God becomes all of us, Ashe. When we compartmentalize, my God, Melva, Jesus. Woo. When we compartmentalize the way that Jesus shows up, if you will, this is how we get to the space and place where we make an idol out of Jesus. My word, Melva. Was this what you're supposed to be talking about? Instead of following Jesus, we began to worship Jesus. But this particular text over here says, what is holy and acceptable to God, which is your reasonable service. Then, if God becomes us, the reasonable service is to God. That Jesus becomes an example for us to follow, an example to activate our own creative maladjustment. Then we all are what? As siblings on the mercies of God. We are standing in gaps for one another against systems, against places, against what Patricia Hill Collins calls, against the interlocking systems of oppression, or against the matrix of domination, most visible in the interlocking systems of oppression. That we stand, that we present these bodies to say, listen, that we are links in this chain and it will not break with me. That this entire text, this pericope, at least chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, is an example of what it means to be maladjusted. My goodness. It is an example. Listen, do not be conformed. Can I share with you that it is easy to be conformed when you are overwhelmed, when you are tired, when you are frustrated, when the system just keeps on systeming, if you will, when you are tired of having to fight for your liberation, when you are tired of having your lived experiences challenged, when you are tired of seeing your people every day. There is a new video on social media where there is either black on black crime against one another, where there are crime against folk within our own communities, where there is trans crime against trans people and LGBT plus people, where those who are in the variations of the class strata, every single day there are those. I just saw one recently with a person, I believe it was a man that was on the ground. He had stopped for help and the police were just tasing him. Oh my God, the frustration. It is the same frustration that we read about in Hebrews. However, their frustration was also tinged with a little bit of fear. The fear of not conforming, the fear of just what else will they do next? Just let's go along to get along. But both here, there, and here, the appeal is if you want a new life, my goodness, if you want a new life and a new life in Christ, then this is what it means. I think that we've taken that kind of sort of, if there is a wrong literal way, let me get over here and see if my New Testament scholars are here. If there is a literal, we have gotten a little, we've fallen off the wagon there with our. Let me put a pin here. Thank you, God. I want to stretch creative maladjustment as Dr. King was talking about it here as it relates to the way that we never become comfortable, that we will not conform to the injustices that we see. He goes on to say what he will never be adjusted with. And I want to share with us, or at least say, that I acknowledge our trauma. And that trauma can make us conform. Yeah. Trauma can make us conform. Our conforming, if you will, becomes a trauma response. My Melva. It becomes a trauma response. Yeah. Meaning we don't want to experience trauma again. And so whatever we need to do not to experience that trauma is how we conform. This invitation from both the writer of Romans and from Dr. King is an invitation to accept not an adjusted life, because even those of us who accept and what we perceive or believe is an adjusted life are fairly lacking. Yeah, an adjusted life in our day and age is, if we gonna tell the truth, let's tell the truth. An adjusted life for us is very tied and connected to the Western way of the world, which is capitalism. An adjusted life is a hierarchical life in which tyranny and all manner of questionable, even unethical and immoral trappings seep into every part of life. It is the way in which some of us become even anesthetized, unable to feel because of the daily, of what we see daily, the ways in which we saw, and we see, 2 years ago when we saw the folks breaking into the Capitol on January 6th, some of us were like, that's just what they do. We were not, we were numb to it. Others of us were absolutely outrageous or outraged. Even just a few last week when we had come all well into the new year without a Speaker of the House, where it almost came to blows in the House chamber. Let me just say, there is a way in which trauma can blunt our own sharp edges. That trauma can blunt our own sharp edges. And here, what Dr. King and what the writer of Romans is inviting us to do is to take up maladjustment. To take up maladjustment as a vehicle. There is a vehicle to freedom. There is a quote here that says, quote, Negroes have been oppressed for centuries, not merely by bonds of economic and political servitude. The worst aspect of their oppression was their inability to question and defy the fundamental precepts of the larger society. Negroes have been loathed in the past to hurl any fundamental challenges because they were coerced and conditioned into thinking within the context of the dominant white ideology. For the first time in their history, Negroes have become aware of the deeper causes for the crudity and cruelty that govern white society's responses to their needs. They discovered that their plight was not a consequence of superficial prejudice, but was systemic. Oh, Dr. King and the writer of Romans is inviting us to present our bodies directly on the front line, confronting this system, that the change that we need comes at a systemic level. So will you present your bodies as a living sacrifice? Will you allow your standing up for truth and justice and for what is right be your worship? Will you understand that worship is not just about us bowing down to an invisible being and saying some prayers and making sure that we say them at the right time, at the right space, at the right day, that we have the right language, that we have the right accoutrements? That's a little bit of piety. That is when we need to follow rule and order. But what does it mean for us to stand against a system system like white supremacy? What does it mean for us to be so maladjusted that we are maladjusted to misogyny war, the hatred of black women? What does it mean for us, or what does it look like for us to be maladjusted against classism? What does it mean for us to be maladjusted against those who would seek to bring harm against our LGBTQTIA plus community? What does it mean for us to be maladjusted and seeing that who really benefits from war? What does it mean for us to become maladjusted to systems, to corporations, to entities, even denominations and boards and churches who look and who mimic the system, who mirror the system? If we are going to put our bodies on the line, and if we are going to become this new being in Christ, then it means that we are going to have to engage in some creative maladjustments. We've become too adjusted to stuff, y'all. Yeah. We've become too adjusted, and part of that, again, is our trauma response is just really too much. And so we kind of sit around and we wait for other folks to do it, or we might say, Brother Earl, y'all the blackest church in Memphis, we gonna let Abyssinian handle that. We might say something like, the gathering down there in Dallas, Texas, y'all always on the front lines of stuff. We gonna let y'all, the womanist church, handle that. We might say, we gonna let our church is not big enough. We gonna let the people with the bigger congregations handle that. We might say, I am not, I don't identify as LGBT plus, and so that's not really my fight. So we gonna let T-Fam handle that. We might say, I didn't go to college, and so sort of the part of the academic industrial complex, I don't really. So I'm gonna let the folks who went to college handle that. We might say, those of us who believe that our fights are not connected, that they are not inextricably linked, the hoteps of the world might say that we can't fight for black women until we can't fight for all the black women until we free the black man. Oh, Jesus. Help us today, honey. These fights are inextricably linked. Do you understand what I'm saying? That we need to be mutually and creatively maladjusted. That to be maladjusted is to be adjusted. Jesus was maladjusted. Jesus was maladjusted to the Roman Empire. Baby, Jesus was so maladjusted that he had to remind them that when you have when your aesthetic is maladjustment, when you are aesthetically maladjusted, and can I say this also? Jesus here is also sort of giving, not Jesus King, to me is sort of giving a nod, if I will, to mental health. King is in this understanding of maladjustment. Now, there's something I read and I've been trying to verify, and I can't find it anywhere. Not that it's not true. I just, in the short time I had to attempt to verify, but I came across this article where it said that, excuse me, I came across this article. Thought that I had it saved. One sec. I came across this article where it was talking about Dr. King. It was talking about Dr. King. I don't know, again, if this is true. I'd never heard this. And I almost don't want to even say it because I've not verified it yet. But this not a blogger, an academic paper uh, not an academic paper. It's like an offering from an association, but there's no citation to it at the bottom. That says that Dr. King attempted to die by suicide twice when he was younger. One when he thought his grandmother was dying, and the second after she did die. I have no fact to that. That I don't. But the way that this particular piece is written is that King was knew the sensitivity, led with balance around what it meant to be maladjusted, and in the way that some mental health professionals in this particular offering are presenting this creative maladjustment is that we normalize conversations around mental health, that we even consider challenging how we understand or saying, talking about mental health or mental health, challenging us to consider when we name something as an imbalance. What King is doing per these offerings is suggesting that if there is an imbalance, that we need to normalize the imbalances. My God, Jesus, to normalize those imbalances. So I want to then run back now again. I want us to hear it again, that what we all want to live is a well-adjusted life in order to avoid, right? But there are some things that he says that I'm never going to be adjusted to. And so I want to invite you, as we prepare to close on this meditation, I want to invite you to just think about what are the things, my goodness, what are the things that you are prepared to be maladjusted? What are the things that you will never adjust to? What are the things that you intend to never adjust to? What are those things? What are those things that you never intend to adjust to? I need us to think in that way, that as we tie our social, as we tie our individual needs to social struggle, that the result is that we would be creatively maladjusted to systems that seek to thwart our existence, to systems that seek to thwart, if you will, our liberation. So, what are our intentions? Yeah. To be maladjusted. What are they? What are they? As you are putting them in, I am putting information for our clearing that we will go over and have further conversation. For those of you who will come along with us, I read the final part. So remember, some of these references are according in context to the time that this speech was written. So we end in this way. And so we need maladjusted people where these problems are concerned. It may well be that our whole world is in need of the formation of a new organization come down. And so the plea facing us, as maladjusted as that great Virginian Thomas Jefferson, who in the midst of an age amazingly adjust to slavery, could scratch words across the pages of history's words lifted to cosmic proportions, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all people are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We need to become as maladjusted, King writes, as Jesus Christ, who could say to the men and women around the Galilean hills, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, Pray for them that despitefully use you, and through such maladjustment, we will be able to emerge from the bleak and desolate midnight of man's inhumanity to man into the bright and glittering daybreak of freedom and justice. And so the plea facing us today is to move on that additional distance that we have to go with, understanding with the concern for brotherhood and sisterhood, with the removal of all prejudices within an understanding that all of God's children are significant. And I close with a personal faith, and that is the glowing faith in the future that I believe somehow we will solve this problem, however difficult, however much opposition we have. Our goal is freedom, and somehow our destiny is tied up with the destiny of America. And I believe we are going to get to that goal of freedom, because the goal of America is freedom. Abused and scared though we may be, our destiny is tied up in America's destiny. We are going to win freedom because both sacred heritage of our nation and the eternal will of the Almighty God are embodied in our echoing demands. And so I can sing anew that we shall overcome because Carlisle is right. No lie can live forever. We shall overcome because William Cullen Bryant is right. Truth crushed to earth will rise again. We shall overcome because James Russell Lowell is right. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yet the scaffold sways the future, and behind them, unknown, stands God with shadows keeping watch above. We shall overcome. And with God's faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain the slab of stone of hope. With God's faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discourse of our nation into a beautiful, sensitive being. With God's faith, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children all over this nation, Protestants and Catholics, Jews and Gentiles, will be able to join hands and sing that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe-o. Thank you for being with us on this morning. Thank you for being in the press with me. Ashe, thank you. I invite you to come on over to the clearing. Thank you in advance for those of you who continue to give with us to help continue the work that we do, to be able to address some of the requests that we have for mutual aid, and others to do what we need to do to make sure that we are up to date on all of the things that we need to be up to date on here technologically and just license wise. So I thank you in advance for those who contribute, and I invite you to go to our PayPal, which is at Pink Robe Chronicles, and to sow a seed. This is good ground. Someone sowed a seed in something I was doing yesterday, and I wasn't expecting it, so I was trying to say, no, let me, here, like, let me pay. I'm about to pay for this. And she said, no, I got it. She said, you good ground, right? She said, so I'm sowing in good ground, meaning that I'm going to reap my harvest. Friends, have I heard that before? Yes. I mean, in terms of that concept, but it was the way that she said it. And so I want to say that Pink Robe Chronicles is good ground, Ashe, that many are reaping a harvest. And that harvest is not just about a material harvest, but many have reaped an emotional harvest. Many have reaped a spiritual harvest. Many have reaped a harvest that looks like confidence, that looks like clarity, that looks like the ability to trust themselves, to trust to be a part of community that is strong enough to hold its truth, that this is good soil, Ashe, that this is good ground, this is good soil. So I invite you to sow with us, to sow into us, Ashe, to sow into us. I invite you to do that now. For those of you who say, and we don't use Cash App, we have had too many unfortunate mishaps with Cash App, with being hacked and and we just don't do that. So also for those of you who use Zelle, you can feel free to use our email for Zelle. It's right there. And for Irie, and you can feel free to use our Zelle. So this is good ground, friends. This is good ground over here. This is good ground, and I invite you to sow. Yeah. And could I want to end by saying this, just about that, which is that we need to really, that our creative maladjustment needs to also extend in that way. I know that some of us have been harmed by theologies and practices, and these human-made doctrines, around this kind of sowing and reaping and harvesting and planting and such. But I want to say, I just want to acknowledge, I won't be the kind of co-leader, because I lead with all of you, that is not transparent around my own needs or struggles. I'm not. That's a problematic example and model of leadership, and it's really steeped in respectability. So just know that oftentimes when I get these requests for mutual aid, of which I have no problem sharing at all, I have no problem sharing it, but just know that there are some times when I'm in a serious need, right? There is a way in which that it be hard on the yard over in this end of the world. And so while I appreciate those who respond to my call on behalf of others, which is if we were able to add up the amounts of funds that we have helped folk gather, listen, it'd be a lot. And for that, we give God thanks. And just know that in the sowing, right, that we also would love for you to sow with us, right? That is not just about responding to the needs of others, but that this work also requires and has a need. So I want to thank you in advance for those of you who are sowing, and say, don't forget about us and our responses, to making sure the folks that don't forget about the work that we do here, particularly for those of you who are with us Sunday in and Sunday out, who catch us on replays, who identify as village keepers, who are here, that the same way that you sow into your physical spaces, your traditional brick and mortar spaces, the same way that you are responding to appeals. For those of you who frequent virtual spiritual gatherings and digital hush harbors, it's the same thing. It is the same not requirement, but it is the same. There are very, similar needs. And so I, speaking on behalf of the Pink Robe Chronicles, say, and don't forget about us. Ashe. Thank you for those who are present. Please remember all of the announcements. Govern yourselves accordingly. I'm only going over to the clearing for a little bit, as I am going to, continue to engage in some rest and resistance, as you will, and enjoy these few days away. I will see you all on next week. God bless, right? God willing, and the creek